I want to cover this. I think this is really interesting. I'm going to read the chat real quick. K-Series, welcome in, buddy. Hey, by the way, guys, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. We got 196 people in here. If every single one of you guys hit that like button, we're at 196 people. Just saying. All right. The one thing I want to talk about is this. I thought this was really interesting. So Donald Trump was at the FIFA World Cup, I believe is what it was, the final, and didn't go too well. Let's take a listen to this. Yo, look at this lady. Look at this lady over here, bro. This is hilarious. Yo, watch this. Watch this lady over here. She's... So, yeah, that was really funny. And then... during the ceremony when I forgot who it was that won, the winning team, when they were winning, Donald Trump went up there and tried to pocket a FIFA championship medal. Now, I don't know if it was given to him as a gift or anything like that, so I won't say he stole it, but I thought it was pretty funny when you look. He's like, here's the medal, and he kind of like tucks it away, puts it in his pocket. And this is the thing, right? Donald Trump is a narcissist. He consistently tries to steal the spotlight away from everybody. So much so that he was having to be kind of like told, you can see this guy, I believe he's with FIFA, telling him, hey, look, hey, Donald, come on, get away from there. Watch. Here's the trophy over here. They're getting ready. You know, this is their moment, right? This is the team's moment. Trump didn't do anything to deserve this. They're like, come on, Donald, come on. Wow, they're screaming, and they're like, and this guy's still trying to be like, okay, Donald, come on, look. And what they posted on their official team, see, he's back there now, and then they go back up, and then this part here is where that part there that you just saw is where they actually posted on their Facebook page. So it was pretty hilarious. Yeah, exactly, Sally. They photoshopped him out. She flinched at the sham. Yeah, exactly, Silas. He stole it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell to get notified of all future videos. And I hope you watch the next video. Thank you so much. Defend Donald Trump to some extent or another. Right now, MAGA is scrambling because they don't have a talking point. So again, MAGA is not going anywhere. They're here. They're going to be here for quite a while. Now on to the next story. By the way, we got 304 of you guys. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. I am trying to provide you the best entertainment on YouTube. And what kind of political commentator is going to sit here and do just that? So many political commentators come in here. They give you economic theory, right? They sit there and they talk to you about all the little nuances of supply and demand and you know, Thomas Sowell and all this other, and all they get into crazy philosophy. Guys, I'm going to give it to you very straight. I'm going to give it to you very forward, right? I'm not here to give you, I'm not an economics professor. I'm not some kind of philosophy nerd. I'm going to give it to you straight news. That's it. Something for everybody who's anywhere can understand. You pick up a phone, you understand what I'm saying. You don't need some kind of crazy college education to understand what the hell I'm saying. I can't tell you how many times I've gone on to panels and they just continuously talk about things that are like making people fall asleep. It's a very niche topic, right? They may talk about law, they may talk about philosophy, economics, whatever. I'm going to provide you the news, very straightforward, and everything else. Would you debate Michael Knowles? I might. It just depends on the topic. I'm actually, one of the things I used to do, and for anybody who's new to the channel, welcome in. I used to do a lot of debate panels. I was on Twitch in 2019. For anyone who's also new to the channel, you might be surprised to find out I am someone who, at one point in time, unfortunately, and wish I could take it back, I unfortunately at one point did vote for Donald Trump. In 2024, I voted for the first time ever in my life for a Democrat. I voted for Kamala Harris, and I voted for Colin Allred. So again, I am somebody who has seen the light, saw the light, and saw where the hell this was going back in about 2020. So again, but anyways, guys, I hope that I'm providing some kind of entertainment. If you are enjoying it, again, hit that like button. All right, so let's talk about immigration, okay? So right now, Donald Trump's immigration policy is, I'm going to give you kind of a little intro take here for anybody who's new. Donald Trump's immigration policy at the border has been working fairly well. And I say that, when I say fairly, I mean that it's gone a little too far. Actually, I say it's gone pretty far at the border. Let's talk about the border. I think there's something to be said about a strong border policy. I think what Donald Trump is doing is taking it way too far. For example, militarizing our border, I think, is pretty inhumane. I think one of the other things that he has done is at the border, he bought up land near the border for military bases. The idea behind that is if any immigrant were to touch foot on a military base, the military can now step in and actually arrest that individual. It was ruled, and I haven't followed up with it, but it was ruled at the time that they cannot do that because an undocumented immigrant who was on that soil would not know they were on a military base. So that kind of failed. I do think there's something to be said about a certain rhetoric at the border, but then you could take that rhetoric way too far. And we've seen that in this administration. They have taken it way above and beyond what they should be doing, right? Now we get to Trump's deportation policy. Trump's deportation policy is one of the worst policies up to and next to, if not including, FDR's Japanese internments. It is worse than, in my opinion, that probably. We've seen, for example, numerous U.S. citizens, asylum seekers, and things of that nature being arrested, detained, any of those which, and being sent to places like Alligator Alcatraz, where they are being deprived. People, it was built extremely shoddy, very quick. There are mosquitoes literally everywhere. We are seeing that it is a huge expenditure. I think it's upwards of $72 million to run it. It's all about waste, fraud, and abuse. So I'm going to bring you back to the news now. We have Stephen Miller here saying we have communities all across this nation that 20 years ago, before the era of open borders, which again, it was not open borders under Joe Biden, were completely peaceful, completely stable. Look at a place like Minneapolis. This is something they're trying to do now, is they're trying to go after Minneapolis for not a Somalian immigrant. There is a gentleman who has Somalian parents. He has Somalian heritage, but he's not born in Somalia, which we'll get to that in a minute. So they're trying to now do this thing again where they're going after the Haitians and the Somalians. They never go after European immigrants. I wonder why. Post-mass migration, they're unsafe, they're violent. You cannot use the public parks. They are trying to paint, and Stephen Miller is the worst of them all, trying to paint all migrants as if they are inherently somehow violent. That's not okay. And then you have guys like Waters over here, Jesse Waters, saying you have this new guy in Minneapolis. He doesn't look at all like a Somali pirate. I would never say that. And what they're talking about is, let me see if I can pull up a picture. Okay, they don't have it up here. I'll show you in a minute. But again, they're just being openly racist at this point. But here's the reality. This is from this person, David Harzerka, or whatever his name is. If you went based on Expos, you'd think Somali Americans have taken over Minneapolis, right? And again, I could be mistaken, but I believe, what's that one lady? Ilhan Omar, I think, might be from Minneapolis, but I could be wrong on that. I think she might be from there as well, which is one of the reasons why I think they're going after that particular region. And it's also because of Tim Walz, which, by the way, is funny because they went after Tim Walz for this the flag, the new Minnesota flag, but it was not a Somali flag or a Haitian flag or whatever it was. It wasn't that. There's like several other flags that look just like it. But anyways, you can see here, only 3 to 7% are Somali or a subset of Black African American in Minneapolis. A very, very small percentage. Very small percentage. But Stephen Miller and Republicans want to make you think they are taking over Minneapolis, and they're not. I mean, literally, you can look at the stats. Facts don't care about your feelings, MAGA. And again, it's funny to me because I saw somebody in chat saying 4 years ago when Trump lost the election, yes, because that's how census works. A census works by doing a census every 10 years. That's how that kind of works. I guess Trump's resort. Oh, and this is the other thing too, is Jack Posobiec saying apparently that show Landman. This is crazy, man. I almost ignore most of Jack Posobiec's tweets because I think they're really just rage bait. But he said apparently that show Landman has undocumented worker characters. Never crossed my mind. I've seen Landman. Didn't even know they were undocumented. Never trust Taylor Sheridan. Ever since Yellowstone, he always manages to sneak wokeness into every series. But I wonder how he feels about Trump and how they keep bringing in foreign workers to staff their clubs and wineries. We're not going to hear anything about that, guys. Why? Because it's Donald Trump. That's why. We also have the ICE Deputy Director, Madison Sheehan, saying, I think we all know that criminals tend to hang out with criminals. This is quite literally, guilt by association. And so as we start to build a case, we're going to be going after everyone that's around them because these criminals tend to hang out with like-minded people who also happen to be criminals. This is a faulty premise. And in fact, what happened with Kilmar Abrego was that they actually said in the filings was that because he was hanging around other, I don't know, I'm so TikTok brain, I don't know what's TOS and not, hanging around other members, they gave him a guilt by association saying he must be associated with them because he was in their same presence. Don't go and, God forbid, guys, listen, if you're an immigrant, an undocumented immigrant, don't go in the bathroom where there's other undocumented immigrants in the stall next to you because you might get picked up. They might pick you up. This is crazy to me. This is exactly what racial profiling looks like. This is stop and frisk to the fullest extent. Now, I will say this. We have plenty of Asian migrants. We have plenty of European migrants. Weird, though, that we don't see ICE going after those individuals, right? Weird. We don't see that. And to Tristan in the chat, stop breaking the law. It's pretty simple. Some of them are not breaking the law. They're going to their asylum hearing to schedule their hearings, and then they're getting picked up by ICE. They're trying to follow the law. But what happens is there's a chilling effect. So what ends up happening is you have migrants who may want to go to the court to follow the law, to follow the proper process, but are now worried that...
I don't know what to think about that. You have this new guy in Minneapolis.
That was weird. Then you have people that don't want to go to their immigration hearing because they're worried that they're going to get picked up by ICE. They're trying to follow the law. So when you sit there and say, just follow the law, guys, it's simple. They're following the law. And they're getting picked up. We're also seeing things like this that are pretty inhumane. The Department of Homeland Security resumed third country deportation flights on Tuesday. This is a part of Stephen Miller's plan, by the way. This was announced at CPAC last year. He wanted to do third world or third safe countries or whatever it was, except he wanted to do it to Mexico. But in this case now, they're sending them over to Eswatini. People that are from, does it say on here? Okay, it didn't say it on here. They are from Vietnam, Laos, I think is one of them, Cuba, and Haiti. I want to be very clear. I looked at the official language for Eswatini. Yeah, it's like Swahili or something like that. And the thing about it is they don't speak any English. So I don't know where someone from Vietnam, who probably likely speaks Vietnamese, how they're going to integrate real well into Eswatini, which is in Africa. This is inhumane. This is inhumane. And the reason why, you might be saying, well, their countries don't want them. Now, I want to be very clear. Some of these people have committed crimes. And I want to give you guys my stance because maybe that's being overlooked. My stance on immigration is this. People who are criminals should probably be deported. There should be some humanity even with that deportation. Secondly, we need to make sure that we are giving them their due process. If someone is simply accused of a crime versus having actually have been found guilty of the crime, I think those are two totally different things. Everybody in this country, it does not matter your legal status. You are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Your crime that you are accused of is absolutely abhorrent. And there's no excuse for it, right? but you're not found guilty yet. Thus, you are to be presumed innocent, and you are to go through your due process. That's how I view immigration. I also view that we should have some kind of a process in place to expedite our immigration proceedings. I think waiting a year to 4 years, upwards of 20 years to gain citizenship because of the backlog of immigration judges should not happen. I think that's absurd. I think we need to have some good border security. I think there is something to be said about border security. Now, we can focus on technology. We can focus on border patrol agents. We can focus on all those things too. That's great. They're not citizens, so the Constitution doesn't apply. You are patently incorrect, Gasman. That is not how that works. Chris Murray said, undocumented criminal offender, immigrants or who we should go after. All of our families immigrated here at one point, so if they're in the courts and doing it legally, deportation, racism. Yeah, no, Chris Murray, you're exactly right. I think that's the problem, right? Is, again, if they're going about it and doing the right thing, and mind you, again, Trump told everybody that they were going to go after, and I kind of sound the alarms, right? I was like, hey, guys, look, they're going to do more. But they made it sound like they were only going to go after criminals. We heard people in the Hispanic community say, oh, they're not going to come for me. They're going after the criminals. But then they're going after the mother, right, who's going to the immigration hearing, who's not a criminal, who's not committed any crimes here in the United States short of going across the border, which is a civil infraction. It's equivalent of a speeding ticket. Short of that, they've not been any crimes. But I sounded the alarm bells. I said to everybody last year, I said, look, guys, they're going to go after more people. We tried telling you guys. And now I knew it based on how I was talking with all the MAGA last year on TikTok and everywhere else. They consistently said, I said, well, what if they go after the single mother or say the mother with the sick child or the mother and the father? Well, they shouldn't have come to the country illegally. Cruelty is the game when it comes to MAGA. I'm sorry. That's how it works. That is how it works. And we're seeing it with this story right here. How they're trying to send them over there. And you guys might be wondering, well, you know, you MAGA are probably like, well, this is going to help American jobs. It's going to help American jobs. Well, unfortunately, according to Donald Trump, and we have heard this being mentioned many times, Trump says, well, we need people. We're building so many factories, which they're not. AI can help with that. But what also is going to help is going to be robots. By the way, a lot of farmers right now are struggling to find workers because guess what? Americans tend to be more lazy than not. Sorry, it's a hard fact. So again, it's crazy to me to see this, is that they thought that Donald Trump would bring all these new jobs. By the way, there was that jobs report that happened last month, I believe it was, that showed there was over like 70,000 jobs that were gained or something along that, like 140,000. 70,000 of that was actually government jobs, and 40,000, I believe, of it was healthcare workers. When it came to manufacturing positions, the labor market has stalled. In fact, it's actually decreased for manufacturing. Long, welcome in. Meanwhile, in the detention centers use slave labor to make profits for Republicans. Yeah. And Republican states, time and time again, they get more from the federal government than they give back. Blue states are actually one of the few states, and especially California, that gives to the federal government more than they take in. They're in a surplus. Sorry, that's a fact. We voted for this. No, you're absolutely right that y'all voted for this. And again, I'm well aware that you guys live by MAGA lives by a cruel metric, and that, if that's what you guys want to do, so cool. So Trump killed many government jobs. So what did they do? Hire other people? Well, well, for one, their products are going to be more expensive to come to the United States anyway. So it's kind of one of those things. They're getting rid of a lot of their laborers, but they're also suffering from price increases due to tariffs. So they may get offset a little bit, but they're still going to need some people, right? It might be a crucial role or whatnot. All right, farm, you're going to need, you're going to still plant a whole bunch. And so they're going to need more farm workers. And unfortunately, Donald Trump he keeps going back and forth. He's like, I'm going to go after farm workers. And the next minute he's like, I'm not going to go after farm workers. And they keep going back and forth. But they consistently are still going after farm workers. Being in this country illegal is criminal enough to get deported. There is a process by which you get determined to whether or not you're going to get deported or not. And if you could tell me, well, what about other countries you would get deported? You can go look at other countries' processes. It's virtually the same thing as the United States. You get an infraction, you go to an immigration hearing, they determine whether or not you should or should not be deported. It's a deportation hearing, and then you get deported. It's the same thing that happens here in the United States. There is a process by which you are determined. It's not an automatic go back home. For example, once you step foot on the soil, it does not mean at a port of entry. You can go look up the asylum law. As long as you're in the United States, I believe it's up to a year that you have to claim asylum. And then you have to go through the asylum hearing process. But again, like I told you guys before, the problem is that these people are getting picked up at their asylum hearings. They're doing schedulings for their asylum hearings. They haven't even been heard. Their evidence hasn't been heard. They're just going for their schedulings, and they're being picked up and deported. We all know exactly. And then we have Trump lying left and right. Trump on Indonesia, they're going to pay 19%. We're going to pay nothing. It's a good, quote unquote, deal for both parties. And now Trump is saying, like, shortly thereafter, you can see the time stamp. It was 12:39, and 3 hours later, he goes, "We made a big deal today with Indonesia. Great deal. They opened up Indonesia fully." Again, Indonesia has not come out and said they've actually made a deal. And the way that Donald Trump is looking at it is this right here. I watched a show this morning. They were talking about, when is he going to make a deal? The deals have already been made. The letters are the deals. There are no deals to make. Donald Trump thinks that him writing out a letter, which I don't know if any of y'all have seen that. He wrote a letter to all these countries. He thinks that that is a deal. He believes that that is his way of signing the little dotted line and sending it on its way. That is what he believes it is. That's not how that works. You see, a deal is when you shake hands and you say, yes, I agree, and you move on. But he's being lazy about it. He's like, I signed a piece of paper. It's a deal. Sorry, but I believe they knew the consequences when they came here. They knew the consequences would affect them and their families. It's not cruel. It's simply a law. It's actually not the law, Mindy. If you look at the actual law, they have a year to claim asylum. There is a process by which they are determined to be deported or not deported. So just because they came here illegally does not make them illegal. For example, we might even have people who are birthright citizenship. They may be DACA recipients. There are numerous different factors that are much more complex than just simply crossing the border illegally. That is what you believe. He believes what you're wrong. I don't know what I'm wrong on. Import the third world. Get that's insane. That's just prejudice and bigoted. So let's go ahead and watch this. This was really fascinating to me. Donald Trump was taking some questions, so we're going to go ahead and watch this a little bit. I'll respond to some of the chat, but we're going to watch a couple of videos here. They're 100% illegal. They can be undocumented. I don't know if I would use illegal. I think it's a pejorative. How do they know when your year starts? Jay Megan, that's a great question. I would say there's probably some metric or another that they would determine that. That's a great question, though. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to. Realize there is a price to pay for how people are treated. Your entitlement will come back to bite you. Just be decent. Just be decent. Yeah, just be decent. How about we be decent to our migrants? That'd be a great start. I'm a farmer, and no farmers are struggling to find workers. All right, let me pull this up for you. Hold on. Farmers struggling for workers. First article I'll pull up. Let's see. Brother labor, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to pull it up here. This was April 2025. South Texas farmers working through a labor shortage. This was March. So it looks like some of them are encountering it. Maybe some aren't. So that's okay. Not a single farmer I know has had any problem. This is the problem with MAGA, though. MAGA tends to look at like their personal life and go, see, my personal life matters. All right. No one next to me matters. No one else to me is talking about this, so it must not be true. That's not how this works. Right? We usually use polling. We usually look at stats. I like to use stats. I like to use facts. I don't like to use anecdotal evidence. That's just me, though. I know MAGA likes to use their own anecdotal experience. Fix your own country. Don't come here. If you come here, learn English. Oh, okay, only one. Only one Kenobi.
That are coming to the...
It's complicated, obviously. These are historic, long time.
Has cut them 10 times in the short.
What you've been seeing over the last couple.
Here we go. I'll play this. I want to be clear. This was from today. This was this morning, by the way.
Plans, or if you're back considering firing Jerome Powell, what's your justification if you're thinking about this?
Well, he's too late. He's always been too late. Hence his nickname, Too Late. He should have cut interest rates a long time ago. Europe has cut them 10 times in the short period.
Only one, I'm totally down for anybody who wants to come to this country and speak whatever language they may. I don't care. You can come to this country, you can speak whatever language you want to. We don't have to have this like national language thing. It's really cringe.
At a time, and we cut him none. The only time he.
I agree. Poor little Marco's sitting back. He's like, I really hate my job. I wonder what dirt they have on Marco, because this poor man, it looks depressed every time. Yo, what's going on, geek? Haven't seen you in forever.
Cut him was just before the election to try and help Kamala or Biden, whoever the hell it was, because nobody really knew. Obviously, that didn't work. But he tried to cut him for the Democrats, Kamala, and how did that work out? You'll tell me. It didn't work out too well, did it? But he's I think he does a terrible job. He's costing us a lot of money, and we fight through it. It's almost, the country's become so successful that it doesn't have a big impact. But
it's become successful due to Joe Biden's CHIPS Act. It's become successful due to Joe Biden's Infrastructure Act. We can point to a whole host of things, right? A lot of people point to like Joe Biden's Infrastructure Act to say the battery thing, but the battery thing, charging stations are set to be opened over the next like 10 years. And I think even Donald Trump has championed some of those electric vehicle chargers. Although he might have nixed that program because he actually is somebody who's not really big into the EV subsidies. And he has actually been, if I give Trump anything here, he has been consistent apparently on those EV subsidies. So
it does hurt people wanting to get a mortgage. People want to buy a house. He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended him. But
Trump appointed Chairman Powell. Trump appointed him, and Trump just forgot. And this is something, too, by the way, with Donald Trump's dementia, it seems like. One of the things that they meant, I've kind of been paying attention to this. One of the things when it comes to dementia is also, and a lot of people make fun of me on this, look it up, it's a real thing. When people have dementia, they tend to cuss a lot more. So if someone who doesn't really tend to cuss, they're kind of like, they just don't have a foul mouth, right, if you will. All of a sudden, when they start cussing in older age, that can be a sign. It can be a sign of dementia. Furthermore, a lot of the things that Donald Trump is saying tend to always stick within this 2016 to 20 timeline. He never really kind of catches up, and there's times where you're kind of like, well, wait a minute. For example, he mentioned that they were built. I had to look for it. He mentioned that they were building like 4 or 5 factories, and I'm like, what? That's such an oddly specific number. I went and looked. It was from back in like 2017. So I'm not saying Donald Trump's got dementia, but his cognitive abilities are, and you can just look. I mean, just look at Donald Trump speaking in 2016 versus now. It's night and day different. He's much slower. His vocabulary seems to have been a lot smaller now than it was then. I'm not saying Donald Trump was a genius, but he was a lot better off.
They did. So, no, we're not planning on doing anything. We're very concerned. He's doing a little renovation for $2.5 billion of the Fed, building a renovation, and they have a.
And that's important to know, too. Him saying that they're doing a renovation, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that Donald Trump is trying to find a reason to fire the Fed chair, and this is a route that he's going. And this is one of the reasons why he does not want to fire Pam Bondi, is because he knows that he needs Pam Bondi to be there to continue these investigations, and that if he were to fire Pam Bondi, he would be set back by several months. Because he would have to find a new AG. He'd have to have them go through the confirmation process. Hope that AG will do all of his bidding like Pam Bondi is doing. Good luck. Good luck. It's not going to happen, right? So that's why he's not fired Pam Bondi. Rest assured, though, I think in any other circumstance, I think in first term Trump would have probably fired Pam Bondi. But this time around, he's got so much on his plate that he wants to get past that he's not trying to fire her.
Close to $900 million cost overrun, and it's a shame. But the biggest cost overrun is the cost overrun for interest rates, because we should be paying 3 points lower, and we would save $1 trillion a year in interest if that were the case. And all it is the stroke of a pen. And that goes for his board, too, because his board is not doing the job, because they should try and rein this guy in. So he's doing a lousy job, but no, I'm not talking about that. Fortunately, we get to make a change in the next, 8 months or so. And we'll pick somebody that's good, and we'll pick somebody.
Some of the people he's mentioning that he wants to bring in and nominate, I can't remember his name to save my life. Besant, I think, is one of them. He wants to look at Bessent, or I think there's another guy that's out there. By the way, these are Trump sycophants, Trump loyalists. And remind you, the Fed chair is supposed to be independent, not doing the bidding of the president. That's how it's supposed to operate. And rest assured that if any kind of Trump's nominees get into place, which they will, time's ticking, then they're going to do exactly what Trump wants. They're going to lower these rates. They're going to create an economic disaster. And again, this is why it's extremely important that midterms count. If you're a Democrat out there, get out and vote during the midterms, because they're going to be the ones that have to sit there and go through these confirmation processes. They're the ones that are going to be able to sit there and potentially upwards and including impeaching and even potentially firing any of Trump's confirmations. Yeah, Chapel Hill, exactly. It's going to tank the economy just like every other business he's ever touched. Anytime Donald Trump touches anything, it goes bankrupt, essentially.
I just want a fair job. We want to see lower interest rates. Our country deserves it. We're making a lot of money. We're doing great as a country. We have no inflation.
No inflation.
Stock market record.
No inflation, by the way, guys, even though we just had a CPI report literally yesterday come out and say we had pretty high inflation.
Everything's a record now. We had the worst inflation in history under Biden, and now we have...
We did have business records that you falsified. It was like 32 counts to 32 felony counts, but I digress.
Almost no inflation. We've done a great job, and we should have the interest rates cut.
So you're saying the other day that Scott Bessent is so happy with the Treasury that it's not your top option to replace Trump out, whatever that may be, whatever you decide to do.
No, Scott's doing a very good job. I'm very happy with Scott. I'd rather keep him. Kevin's somebody we consider. Kevin's fantastic, too. We have a lot of good people for that job. It's not a tough job, to be honest. Assuming you're smart, it's not a tough job. If you're a dummy, then I guess it's a tough job. But it might be one of the easiest jobs I've ever seen. And now
you're correct, Long. Donald Trump is one of the oldest presidents, or I think the oldest president in United States history. Even though MAGA complained about Joe Biden's age, now all of a sudden they give Donald Trump a pass.
Close to $3 billion little nest egg for himself. He's not doing the right job.
You're correct, Spartacus.
We should be saving $1 trillion a year in interest. When he talks about cost, we should be saving. Think of it, $1 trillion a year. Add that with the tariffs and everything else. But he just doesn't.
Yeah, those tariffs are going to lead to massive inflation. Okay. And Donald Trump, and this is why Jerome Powell is looking towards the future and going, because of Donald Trump's tariff policies, we've got a storm brewing and it's coming shore.
Well, he's a knucklehead, but we'll see how he's listening to this. But that's a strange conversation. But we like to say it like it is. But we have a lot of people that want that job very badly, and I'm only interested in low interest people.
So Eric, and it's funny to me to see all these chat. For anybody who's just coming in, by the way, those who do enjoy the show and are enjoying it, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell so you can get informed the next time I go live or any new videos are posted. I'm going to attempt to post one short every single day, short of the weekend. But on that other note, it's funny to me when you guys sit here and say that I shill for Biden. First of all, I did not vote for Biden in 2020. Unfortunately, I probably should have, right? But let's be very clear. I've been critical of some of Joe Biden's policies, right? For example, if I may add, I think the American Rescue Plan had some positives, but I also think they had some negatives. For example, the stimulus package that he passed. We had just had Donald Trump pass two massive stimulus packages in 2020. We had Donald Trump pass one in, I believe it was April or May, and then he passed one in December. And then Joe Biden around February, March, which shows just how unified Joe Biden was able to rally, because Donald Trump wasn't able to get any major bills passed till May or June. So Joe Biden has been far more efficient when it comes to actually passing bills than Donald Trump is. I digress. Joe Biden ended up, in my opinion, having a hand in our inflation, but I don't think it was the contributing factor to inflation. I have been critical of some of Joe Biden's stuff. But again, you guys think this is the problem is, right, is MAGA is kind of projecting here when they do this, when they're like, oh, I bet you love Biden. I bet you love some Biden. Biden, boy, you love that Biden, shake that Biden. You damn commie. That you're projecting, because the whole thing I have heard for the past 10 years is nothing but Trump. Nothing but good news about Trump. And none of these guys can pull up any one bad thing, or two or three even, if you can give 3 bonus points on what Donald Trump has done negatively. You can't. The best thing they got right now is the Epstein thing. That's the best thing they got right now. Keith Black, exactly. Inflation just went up, but they're going to ignore that. That's due to Biden, guys. The problem is, and this happens with MAGA, is every single time something bad comes up, it's not their fault. It's the Democrats. It's the Democrats' fault. You see, Joe Biden massively outspent. You see, if you look, the deficit went up under Joe Biden. No, it didn't go up under Joe Biden. The problem is that what MAGA doesn't look at is they see line go up. It don't always go up. Okay. The problem is there's facts behind that line. All right. So what happened was, and I want to get back to this video, but what happened is that the deficit did go up under Joe Biden, but that's not the full story. The full story is that deficit that went up is made up of numerous policies from previous administrations, even and including potentially even Obama era policies. Policies typically have a 10-year outlook because that's how long they stay in effect for. So basically, anytime you see inflation going up around, 2022, you're going to have to go back about 10 years, meaning 2012 and 2016 and 2020 to see why that deficit is going up. This is why it is important to look at the deficit impact based on the bill. So when we look at what Joe Biden passed with his bills versus what Donald Trump passed, Joe Biden spent less than Donald Trump. That's why. Are you saying Joe Biden was a good president? I think he had some flaws. I think that he was older. I would not have gone for someone that was that old. But I think all consideration, I think he put a lot of weight on Congress, which also hand-tied him a little bit, right? Because the one thing he did with immigration was instead of taking a lot of executive actions like Donald Trump has done, he tried to get something done through Congress. And by the time he actually had something that he could have done, it was too late, and it was his last year in office. So I think there were some good things. I think there were some bad things. I think overall, I think it was a net positive, right? But it's not to say that there wasn't anything negative that he did. He was absolutely better than Trump, 1,000 times better than Trump for sure. Supreme Court hearing asking Patel, Noam to stop blaming Biden. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is they're getting absolutely owned in the federal court system. Joe Biden was a good president. Yeah, he was. He was a pretty decent president. And honestly, you look at how he's doing now after his presidency. Dude's like an old man chilling out, getting some ice cream, hanging out on the boardwalk. Dude's been in office for decades. So give him his roses, He wasn't a fool. Yeah, the auto pin thing is hilarious because Donald Trump does the same thing. So
frankly, because you don't need. I know. So they had the 71 different economists and people experts that they picked about a month ago. I was the only one, along with one person from maybe the Wharton School of Finance. The two of us got it right. 69 people, including Powell, got it wrong. And he wants to hire thousands of new people to help him decide where we're going in the future. It only takes one good mind. It doesn't take 5,000 good minds. So they're expanding the Fed. It's the dumbest thing I've heard of. But it's very autonomous.
Just to follow up on that, sir. Are you completely ruling out the idea of firing?
Okay, this Northwest Gardner guy, Biden was the best cyclist of the Democrats. Okay, I would love to see Donald Trump ride a bicycle because I don't think he can. I think first of all, look at his hand right here. Okay, he's got makeup on his hand because anytime someone shakes his hand, he gets a bruise is what it is. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that. There's clearly makeup on his hand. So again, I'd love to see Donald Trump ride a bicycle. Dude sits on a golf cart like an old man.
I don't rule out anything, but I think it's highly unlikely unless he has to leave for fraud. I mean, it's possible there's fraud involved with the $2.7 billion renovation. This is a renovation. How do you spend $2.7 billion? And he didn't have proper clearance, etc.
By the way, he's talking about this like garden or renovation. Donald Trump is renovating the Rose Garden right now by putting a concrete slab over it. And I think he's going to make it like some kind of like fancy outside dancing thing or whatever it is. It's all about a waste of money. That's a complete waste of money right there. Trump isn't faking. He rides bikes. He plays golf. Yeah, I actually seen a video and it's hilarious. I wonder if I can find it where he he swings, misses, everybody starts clapping, and then he kind of slightly picks up the golf ball. I'm gonna see if I can find it. It's absolutely hysterical. Hold on, let me see if I can find it for you guys. Let me see. Trump swing, miss, and clap. Let me see if I can find it. It's hilarious. Oh, here it is. This is it. Watch this. It's hilarious.
Trump.
Well, here's the golf ball. He's getting ready, guys. Good golfer here. Watch. Yo, they're over there clapping. Look. He's gonna golf, guys. He's gonna get it. He's gonna get it. Dope. This is the man that allegedly won all of those. He allegedly won all those golfing championships, guys.
etc. So you know that's going on. So there could be something to that, but I think he's not doing a good job. He's got a very easy job to do. You know what he has to do? Lower interest rates. No, I haven't drafted.
AI is real and fools like this believe it. Is that AI, RMZ? There's no way that's AI. If you say it's AI, I'll own it. I'll say it's AI. AI has been pretty deceptive before, but it's usually pretty noticeable. That didn't look like AI to me. If it's real, let me know. But
So you didn't show a letter to Republican lawmakers last night?
No, I talked about the concept of fire him. I said, what do you think? Almost every one of them said I should. But I'm more...
He threw Republicans under the bus there. I don't know if you caught it. He said that he said that Republicans, he talked to Republicans and said that every one of them said he should.
Conservative than they are. No, we didn't. We joked about it. In fact, we had 11 of the 12 people here yesterday for a very big bill having to do with crypto, etc., and other things. And
which I forgot to put this in the storyboard, but what happened too about that crypto thing and all these other bills, JD Vance had to cast the 7th tie-breaking vote of this year. Remember when MAGA said that they won by a landslide? Remember when MAGA sat there and said that they had a mandate? Yeah, they didn't have a mandate. They don't have a landslide victory because they're struggling to pass bills. They're struggling. Okay, because as soon as they sent it to the Senate, for example, with one big beautiful bill, they're like, oh, we need to make these amendments. So then they sent it back to the House. It's insane to watch just how bad they've been. You're expecting him to act like one of your career politicians. Keep up. Okay, first of all, he is a politician at this point. You may say he's not a career politician. It's just fun to me when MAGA does it. So like he's going after the deep state. Donald Trump has been in politics, guys, for 10 years at minimum. If you want to count other times where he has, tipped his hat into the ring, because he has talked about running, by the way, in the past, he has been in politics at least for 10 years. I know it's hard to believe, but it's been 10 years, guys. So Donald Trump is a politician now. That is who Donald Trump is. That is his signature thing. That is what he will be remembered as legacy. He'll be remembered as one of the worst presidents of the United States.
all of the votes are going with us, every single vote. But during the conversation, when we were talking about it,
you're incorrect, Joe. Republicans did not win all swing states. Republicans actually had certain cases, which was actually very telling, where the president won, right? Trump won the state, but then a Democrat would win the Senate or the House or whatever it was. Or it would be the Senate. The Senate would go opposite. There were split states like that.
I asked, what would you do about that? They all said would fire him.
Mr. President,
Yeah, please.
thank you for taking the question. So you were in Pennsylvania yesterday, you
Yes.
built $92 billion worth of investments. One of those jumped out to $15 billion in Homer City to build the largest natural
Right,
gas
yes.
power plant ever. I was at the rally where you told Homer City residents to not forget them when the biggest coal plant in Pennsylvania
That's right.
closed down. Delivered to them yesterday. What message do you have for those
Well, I'm
residents?
happy. Homer City, I was there, and I said, I'm going to produce something, I don't know what, because they shut down this massive coal plant, one of the biggest in the country.
It's so interesting to me when I see child sniffing Sleeping Joe was better. It's so funny when I hear that, because MAGA, all I heard was Oh, care about the children. Look at Creepy Joe. Donald Trump refuses to release the Epstein list. It's so funny when you guys do that. And then also, this was the interesting thing to me, is when Republicans love to politicize tragedies, but when it's inconvenient for them, they cry foul. They say, no, guys, we can't. How dare you? It's a tragedy in a red state. You can't criticize nothing. But then they're going to sit there and politicize any time that there's a tragedy in a blue state under a Democratic governor. Spare me the MAGA tears. Spare me.
And it was just purchased by the gentleman that you met yesterday. Very substantial man. I don't know if he's maybe not as substantial as you are.
The funny thing about this entire thing is this poor man came in for Bahrain. And he thought he was going to be able to speak. And he's like, yo, what did I end up in? This entire video is like 30 minutes long. And he doesn't speak hardly at all. He's like, how did I end up here?
I'm not sure. But he's pretty substantial. You know who I'm talking about. And they're going to spend billions of dollars.
I'm surprised he hasn't offered Trump a golf course. That tends to be Trump's go-to thing. World leaders have learned, and Zelensky has learned as well, that you have to kiss Trump's ring and offer him a golf course or two, and maybe you'll get some favors.
Rebuilding it, and it's going to be the largest plant of its kind in the world, I believe, actually in the world. And it's going to be great. So we really fulfilled that promise to Homer City, but it's to Pennsylvania, basically. I won Pennsylvania, and very conclusively won Pennsylvania. So I owe them a big debt of gratitude. But thank you for bringing that up. We raised 92. It's actually going over 100. So it'll be over $100 billion to be invested in Pennsylvania. It's Pennsylvania Energy Project.
It's so funny to me when people talk about TDS. The only thing I've heard from MAGA supporters for the past 6 months has been about Biden. They got Biden derangement syndrome.
Everybody was there. Larry Fink was there. I mean, everybody was there and done a great job. The senator did a great job. And we were very proud. That was a great meeting yesterday. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, actually for each of you, so for the Crown Prince, are you planning on taking any of the Patriot missiles that you're going to receive from the United States and divert those to help Ukraine?
We have no current plans, as we have an operational requirement inside Bahrain to keep them there.
Yeah, one of the things too, by the way, is it's funny because it's not only the Epstein files that Donald Trump has absolutely blundered on, it's also been Ukraine. Because Donald Trump just, MAGA continues to get the Fell Forward Award, right? Handed to them. Like, here, you get a Fell Forward Award. Here, you get a Fell Forward Award, right? Trump said he's going to bring down prices. Hasn't really happened. Donald Trump said that he was going to bring all these jobs back to America. Hasn't really happened. Donald Trump said that he was not going to fund the war in Ukraine. Kind of funded the war in Ukraine. Donald Trump said that he was going to release the Epstein files. Didn't really release the Epstein files. Donald Trump said that he was going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, and didn't really do that. Remember they said they were going to hand out Doge checks? Where are those Doge checks? Where are those Doge checks? Where are they at? They haven't happened. They said they were going to save $2 trillion, and then it became whatever it was, like 500,000, I think, down to like 200,000 or 200 million or billion, 200 billion. 200,000 billion, whatever the fuck, you know what I'm talking about. Yep, Epstein files again. This will last 4 more days. Again, assuming Donald Trump shuts up, and problem is you got Democrats who should absolutely capitalize on this. Okay, so, and I don't think that his MAGA supporters are going to let this go. I think this is something that MAGA supporters are going to try to let go, but it's going to come right back up. And we've already seen, and this was recent breaking news, probably about right before I started stream. Trump fired the lead prosecutor for Ghislaine Maxwell, by the way. You don't know what you're talking about? Okay, you're right. I don't know. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're in here, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. It would matter. It would mean a whole lot to me. It's the very least you can do. It's free. All you have to do is hit that like button. Okay? And if you subscribe, even better. But we're going to watch this.
He's got plenty of them, too.
Listen to NPR. Republicans just defunded NPR. They just went and tried to get rid of NPR. And that's one thing that's hilarious to me is watching how much the anti-censorship Republicans are now becoming censorship Republicans. It's funny to me to sit there and listen to them talk about how big government is such a bad thing, and now they're trying to defund Harvard.
President, the fentanyl bill.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful pieces of kit.
They work very well.
American technology is the best.
Yep.
And on the fentanyl bill,
That's maybe the most important part of this. He has his choice of everything. And we make the best military equipment by far in the
Bar
world.
none.
There's nothing close, right?
Bar none.
Yeah. Thank you.
And on the fentanyl bill that you're signing today, do you hope that that's going to restart law enforcement cooperation with China on getting the fentanyl?
Yeah, I think China's been helping out. I mean, it's been a terrible.
They fear the media vitriol because they're worried that they're going to end up getting exposed. Now, the problem is, though, is that, and to be honest with you, the mainstream media is terrified of Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump is very litigious. He's already sued, CBS, ABC, and all these other ones. He's already tried to defund NPR and PBS. They've already tried to go after these organizations, and now these media companies are absolutely bending the knee to Donald Trump. They're not asking difficult questions. The media lately with this Epstein stuff has been, but that's because they've realized that they're appealing to MAGA, right? And so they know they'll get good ratings, but they're just as much in line with Fox News more than they are not. So one of the problems is we have to look towards, and this is the problem that the left has, is they don't have a big online media presence as much as the right does. And this is why, again, you have to try to keep in mind, and this is my own selfishness a little bit. I am a liberal political commentator. I am not a progressive. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a communist. I'm not a Marxist. Although I do have some ideologies that maybe lean a little bit more into progressivism than not. But what it's important for me to tell you guys as well is this is why it's important to support your online left-wing political commentators. Because, again, the mainstream media, what that's thought of as left-wing, isn't really left-wing. they kowtow to Donald Trump so much. And I've mentioned this before. A lot of people don't really agree with me on this. They say don't copy what the right is doing, but it baffles me to see that the right will have conferences literally everywhere, right? They'll go and do a youth summit conference in Florida and have like all these big right-wing personalities show up. The left doesn't do that. The left is more focused on grassroots, and I'm not to take away from that. I think the left is really good at grassroots campaigning, but we got to find some other way to kind of unite the left in a way, right? I think the problem is the left doesn't have a lot of that unity in a way. We saw this with Kamala Harris, for example, where there was a certain sect of the left that just simply did not want to vote for Kamala Harris. And had they voted, it may have shifted the tide. So it's important that as the left, we kind of come together in some form or fashion, and there needs to be some kind of a leader that can do that. But anyways, I digress. I've gotten way off track.
Situation for many years with fentanyl, but since I came here, we're talking to them, and they're making big steps. They're also, as you know, being penalized. You know that, right? They're being penalized with tariffs because of the fentanyl, but they want to do something. We'll see what happens.
Okay, so someone said continuing calling over half the country stupid won't end well. Division is all the left have. Incorrect. In fact, the one thing that the left has is unity. We've tried to unite as much people as we can to say, hey, look, there's this cause that's going to affect you. They're going to strip away your Medicaid. They're going to strip away your Medicare. They're going to strip away your SNAP benefits. They are going to do that. They're going to strip away your neighbors. They're stripping away your rights, your birthright citizenship, things of that nature. We try to inform our fellow citizens. And keep in mind, too, it's funny to me when you say that division is all that the left has when that's all that the right has run on. It's also incredibly interesting to me because I also find that a lot of the times Republicans think that the left cares about what they have to say. We don't care about what the right has to say. We don't care about what MAGA has to say. We're not worried about those guys. Those guys are long gone, lost, and over with. We're not going to change anybody's mind on MAGA. MAGA is, at this point, they have gotten the sunken cost fallacy. They have very well known what they voted for. There is no surprise. They may pretend to be surprised, but they're not actually surprised because that's exactly what they voted for. What we're appealing to on the left is trying to bring together our entire base. I'm adamant in this. The one problem I have with the left is we tend to try to appeal to the moderates as much as possible, but election after election after election has shown moderates only move just a hair. Just a hair. They don't tend to move all that much. They tend to stay right there at like 2 or 3% or whatever it is. So again, what we need to do is focus on what the left has, focus on those core leftist policies, and it's important to know when to play it. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. I think the one thing that the left has that is important is that during this next election, Republicans are extremely vulnerable. Extremely vulnerable. Don't worry about trying to get the moderates. They're extremely vulnerable. What does that mean? We have more political leverage. That means we need to push for a little bit more. We can get away with a lot more than we would in traditional elections. Let the right fight their own battles. They got their own thing going on. Let's focus on, right, more leftist issues. If they want to run on Medicare for all, go for Medicare for all. I don't know if that's something I would inherently support, but hey, run on that. Run on something that energizes the base, gets them going. Raising the minimum wage, easy win. Easy win. Donald Trump didn't run on it. I barely heard anything from Kamala Harris. I think she did mention it once or twice. Bring in the minimum wage conversation. Raise it up. I think it's ridiculous that we're still sitting at $7.25 an hour. Okay? I'm not saying it has to be 15 or 20, but I think we're overdue for a minimum wage increase. I'm just saying. But that's what we need to focus on.
Go ahead, please.
When American from Tampa was visited, was told by Israeli senators in the West Bank. It's funny, it's been pouring on you.
Can barely hear.
Are you going to do that? The American from Tampa?
Yeah, your first sentence is really. Go ahead.
An American citizen from Tampa, Florida, has been killed in the West Bank. His family has been hospitally prosecuted. Are you going to help?
You know that.
Yeah, well, so first of all, have you seen yesterday Ambassador Huckabee as
Wow, during C-19, people were making 15 plus. Yeah, it's been $7.25 for 50 years now. It's not been 50 years. It's been since I think Obama was the last time it raised up. Obama, it was like 2008. Don't quote me on that. It might have been 2008. Might have been 2010. I can't remember which year it was. But they increased to $7.25, and they have not increased it since. Now, states have taken on some of that burden. States have absolutely increased some of their minimum wage, but I don't think that that's sufficient enough. I think there are still some states that go by the federal minimum wage, which is why we need to increase it. I think it's the least we can do, and it's an easy way to do it and put more money in Americans' pockets.
asked the Israelis to conduct an investigation. We want to get all the information about who was involved.
See, this is the funny thing about it, guys. I just played my Uno trap card, and all of MAGA just fell for it, as exhibited by Joe Fischetti. Raise the minimum wage, then you can pay $16 for a Big Mac. Answer me this, MAGA. So, tariffs don't increase prices, but yet somehow raising the minimum wage will? Riddle me that. I acknowledge raising the minimum wage increases prices. I also acknowledge implementing tariffs raise prices. Why? Because it's an added expense to the business. However, I do believe that raising the minimum wage would be a less impact on the business than it would be otherwise on a tariff. A tariff gets implemented on all of their raw materials. It cannot avoid it. It's unavoidable. Secondly, when you look at minimum wage, the reality is that minimum wage is already raised in several different states. However, there are some states that still have the federal minimum wage at $7.25 an hour. What does that mean? That means the impact to that business is going to be very minimal if you increase it to, say, $10 an hour. So think about it this way. If you've got 40 of the 50 states having a minimum wage of at least $10 an hour, I don't think it's that high, but let's say you did, and only 10 states were affected by increasing the minimum wage to $10 an hour versus, which, by the way, it doesn't mean the company has to operate within those 10 states, right? If they want, they can operate in another state. So what I'm trying to say is that the impact is much less significant than, say, implementing a 15 to 20% or higher tariff on all raw materials coming in from the United States. You can't avoid it. You can't move to another state. You can't do anything other than moving back to the United States. But then now you're going to have raised capital costs, which is also interesting to me because that's also the idea behind MAGA is, well, they'll just come back to the United States. Okay, so now they're going to come back. They're going to have to pay for American labor, which is going to be typically more expensive. There's an added expense. They're going to have to pay for capital expenditures like buildings and fixed assets like machines and robots and things of that nature. There's an added expense. They're going to have to pay for the new technology. There's an added expense. All these things that are going to be added. There's an American taxpayer system that we have to pay with electricity and water and all that other utilities. But yet y'all freak out when we want to increase the minimum wage to $10 an hour. It's hysterical to me. It's hysterical to me. A lot of businesses can't afford any more increases. I agree. So that's why we shouldn't have these freaking tariffs. Tariffs used as a revenue source. Okay, great. Yeah. It's a revenue source to the government, but it's an expense to the business. The business pays for that tariff, meaning the people are going to incur a price increase because guess what? Companies love their profits. They're not going to eat their profits. Can you point to me why a company would eat their profits? They won't.
All American citizens anywhere in the world, especially they're unjustly murdered or killed. So we're gathering more information, but I hope you saw yesterday Ambassador Huckabee in Israel asked the Israeli authorities to produce an investigation and concrete information about who was responsible for his murder.
They're reporting that tomorrow. We have a meeting on it. They're going to be reporting that to me.
Yeah, Phil, and that's what I'm trying to say is, like, again, increase the minimum wage to at least $10 an hour is not a tall ask. And it would have virtually a minimal impact to businesses. There'd be an impact, but it would be minimal.
Yeah.
Do you think that the welfare balance is more?
If you have not ran business or paid employees, what gives you the experience? Raise minimum wage? Yes, let me put it this way. I have not had my name as an owner of a business, but I have helped run a business. I'll put it that way. I also have a degree in business, and I have worked in numerous industries. I'll leave it at that.
And do you believe that negotiation with Iran is necessary at this stage?
Well, I definitely believe that the volatility of the situation has been reduced. And we didn't know where it was going to go on the Sunday. We were very glad when we found out on the Monday. Let me put it that way. And should the Iranians...
The tariffs are being eaten by the country. You are hysterical. You are hysterical. They're being eaten by the consumer.
want to negotiate, I believe the ball's in there.
William, when I say I'm helping run a business, I'm advising that business. Okay, and it's doing fairly well.
That is the true reality of where we stand today. They are the ones that stand to benefit from a negotiation.
And they do. They want to negotiate. They want to negotiate badly. We're in no rush because, you know, we said we could have made a deal. They should have made a deal. And then we bombed the hell out of their various places. We're in no rush, but if they want to negotiate, we're here. Yeah.
Mr. President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein file, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your attorney
It's a big
general
hoax.
told you this was a hoax? What evidence?
No, it's not the Attorney General. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by...
Started by Democrats. He's talking about the Epstein files are started by Democrats. No.
The Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier. That turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats. And some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking.
We're really good for policy. In fact, the problem is that the Democrats are really good at picking up the pieces of the Republican before them. That's the problem that tends to happen. We saw this with Obama. We saw this with Joe Biden, right? Is there's a mess that is handed to them because of overspending, and they have to correct course, and they tend to do pretty well. You can look at this historically speaking. I think it's been that way since about the 80s or 90s, something like that.
Candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. No.
They always label everybody a communist. It's hysterical to me. As a matter of fact, I don't believe Mamdani has ever admitted to being a communist. I could be wrong on that, though. I'm not a big Mamdani fan or whatever. It doesn't mean I'm not, with him or whatever, but I just never looked into him.
I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements we've had, a great gentleman yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with...
What's up, Long? 80% of Walmart products from China, they're going to eat. They're not going to eat all those. Walmart especially ain't going to eat all that. Walmart going to pass that down to the consumer, the poorest consumer at that. But keep in mind, Walmart still has a dominance over small town USA. Walmart has a massive dominance over small town USA. So rural America is going to feel the pinch, and it's going to hurt. Focus on quality and delivering a better process. Our universal business success model. Low price is always a loser model for employees and customers. Yeah, and there's a lot of things, too, when it comes to lower prices, by the way, that a lot of people don't understand this, and this gets kind of weird, is sometimes it's better not to have a lower price. Sometimes a lower price can have the psyche of an inferior product. So you don't want to, I always tell people, if you're as unsolicited business advice, if the general market is, say $150 per hour for your service, charge $150. Run on your service, right? Running on the lower cost doesn't always win you things, okay? You may think in the long run it wins you more customers, but guess what? You're probably going to be operating at a significant loss because you probably, as a smaller business, have a lot more costs anyway. So work with the market. Don't work against it.
a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that...
Yeah, Long, you're exactly correct. The issue with cars is their supply chain, which again, MAGA does not understand supply chains, moves up and down between the U.S. and Canada, right? And then sometimes Mexico. So like it'll start here in the U.S. and then it'll move up to Canada, and then it'll come back to the U.S. and then it'll go down to Mexico, and then it comes back to the U.S. There's very few cars that are actually American made. And this is the problem, by the way, and I'd watch out for this. If Donald Trump ever tries to get you to believe this, you will see that he's bringing car factories back to the United States. But that doesn't mean that that car is going to be manufactured in the United States. That car is going to have an assembly plant in the United States. It will be a part that is made in the United States, but it won't be a truly American-made car, okay? It'll be made in different countries.
Are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. President, there's lots of reports coming into this meeting that you plan on firing Chair Decay.
Is that right? Those are reports, but they're not true.
So what would be useful to know, are you committed to taking something from the outside?
The problem with that, Joe, is defining what is American-made car, okay? The idea that it's an American-made car is, I'd have to look at the bill. I know what you're referring to. I'm not super familiar with that bill, to be honest with you. But I can only instinctively, I'm looking at it going, what is American-made? Okay, because I know how Republicans love to play this game. They tend to like load that language pretty heavily. Chompers release the list. Exactly. Release the list. It'll take years to bring manufacturing back for 100%. It won't never be 100% in the United States. I'm adamantly, I fully disagree that they were going to bring it back 100%. Cars are assembled here, but China and Japan make the parts, so not American cars. Exactly. He's literally said he'd rather have parts manufactured in the States. He'd rather have them made in the States. But the problem is that, again, the reality is that you're going to have certain components that are instinctively made in other countries. For example, there are chips in cars that I believe are made in Taiwan. I could be wrong then. It might be Taiwan or China, one of the two. Chips are manufactured in one of those countries. So you're not going to have a perfectly 100% assembled car in the United States. Our cars are far much more advanced than they were in the 60s and 70s. We're not going to have the Detroit of the 2025 year. We're not going to have that. We're not going to have Detroit anymore. You guys got to accept it. We're going to have parts that are manufactured over in another country. We might have cloth that is manufactured in Asia. We might have chips that are manufactured in Asia. We're going to have steel or aluminum or whatever kind of other raw material that gets made into the final product manufactured or mined in another country. That's just how this works. Largest chip manufacturers made in the USA. Problem is, Joe, is that there are different kinds of chip manufacturers. There's AI chip manufacturers. There's processors. There's so many different kinds of chips made for so many different things, right? For example, if you have a chip that goes into a calculator, it may not be a good enough chip to run a computer, right? So we have to be careful when we say, oh, look, they're bringing chip manufacturers back to the United States. They rely on people not understanding what it is they're bringing back to the United States. For example, by the way, Joe Biden's CHIPS Act is what brought NVIDIA to the United States, because what's happening is, I'm getting in the weeds. I told you guys I wasn't going to get in the weeds. I'm going to get in the weeds a little bit. What's happening is Joe Biden has incentivized chip manufacturers to come to the United States. One of the problems that we've had is that with that chips bill is that they have to invest initially. They have to invest so much percentage, like 20%, and then the federal government subsidizes the rest of the construction or whatever it is. Here's the thing. The chip plant that's coming in is a chip plant that will build AI chips. NVIDIA uses and utilizes these AI chips, and so they're trying to shorten that supply chain and to the consumer, and so they're trying to bring that to the United States. So they're just, it's a snowball effect. But Donald Trump is coming in at the tail end of that, and he's trying to take credit for something that he can't take credit for. This is all happening because of Joe Biden. You are correct, Phil. NVIDIA, I believe, did a deal with the U.S., but that is because of Joe Biden, okay? Follow the path. It is because of Joe Biden that NVIDIA is coming to the United States. Joe Biden started that trend. People naturally turn to black market for many things. They have to. For example, chip manufacturing in California are going to change the world more than the Industrial Revolution. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. I'm, again, not a super big guy when it comes to chips. I've just kind of taken a very simple, rudimentary look at it.
I have so many people that want that job. I have people that I've known a long time. They're calling me, begging for the job. You know what you need there? A smart person with common sense, but you need a very smart person for that job. I think it's one of the easiest jobs in government.
Phil, this is such a elementary level take. Just because Joe Biden was not part of the $500 billion deal, which I don't know whether he was or wasn't, I would imagine there was some kind of a talk behind the scenes, doesn't mean that it wasn't they're not coming to the United States because of some kind of contribution that Joe Biden made to the environment, the business environment. See, you got to understand. Let's put it this way. I'll give you a much more easy elementary level understanding. Okay. So we have Joe Biden essentially being like a gardener, right? He's a farmer. He has laid the soil and he has planted the seed, right? And now a bird comes along, picks up that fully germinated seed, right? The seed is finally grown. It's now a full grown plant. The bird comes along, picks up that seed and carries it to the next plant right over, right? Drops the seed next door to this farm. That farmer had a hand in dropping that seed in the next place. That is exactly how this lays. Joe Biden laid the groundwork. He ended up planting the seed. And now all the fruits of the labor are coming here because of Joe Biden's contributions. That's how this works. It's very, very simple.
You show up once a month and you make a statement about where the economy is going, and we're going to raise or lower interest rates. It's probably the easiest job I've ever seen. That's what I'm trying to figure. Why does he want to expand and add more people?
All right, guys. So I have a strict 2-hour limit, and I went way over that. I apologize that we had to cut that video short. Listen, guys, do me a huge favor. I will be streaming Friday. Okay, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will cover all of the latest news. I will try to make sure we get to a video. I covered most of the important stuff on that video anyways. I just wanted to kind of do that to kind of fill in the blank a little bit and kind of commentate on it. Hopefully we'll have that. But yeah, guys, if you could drop me a like, just drop me a subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope you enjoyed this content. I know my energy kind of dropped down a little bit towards the end of it all, but man, I hope I gave y'all a show. I hope you guys were entertained. I hope you guys had learned some things. And again, if you enjoyed the show, please drop me a like, subscribe. If you're watching this on Twitch, Twitter, any of those, or X, sorry, make sure you drop me a follow on one of those platforms as well. You can find all of my links right over here. Other than that, guys, y'all have a great night. Thank you all for making this an awesome stream. And I hope to see you guys Friday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time.